Hello and welcome to this Foster Care Institute online training webinar, Sleep Anxieties in Youth. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I've been a foster parent myself to over 60 plus children and youth who have come through my home and been a part of my family. I am an author of several best-selling foster care books, an international speaker and trainer. But perhaps my best role, my greatest role, my favorite role is that of being a parent. Indeed, over the years, my wife and I have had several children come through our home who have had issues of sleep. We all enjoy having a good night's sleep. And that goes the same for the youth that we're caring for, the youth that we're working with, the youth that are in the home that we work at. They also want a good night's sleep. Yet sadly, for so many youth in foster care, a good night's sleep is denied them. During this webinar, we're going to look at that. Indeed, our goal is to gain knowledge about why sleep anxieties might be a problem in the youth that we work with and the youth that we care for. We're going to increase your awareness of what might cause some sleep anxieties for youth in foster care. And we're going to gain an understanding of how to develop and implement some strategies designed to best aid those youth and children who experience sleep anxieties. Now, have you ever had trouble sleeping? I recall when I was younger, I had trouble sleeping some nights. Indeed, when I have been a foster parent, there have been moments and nights where I've had struggling times trying to get some sleep, struggling with all the anxieties, worries, concerns in my mind. My mind just wouldn't turn off, so to speak. And trouble sleeping that night meant for a very difficult and challenging day the next day. So, to be sure, it is so important that our youth that we care for, the youth that we're working with, that they get a good night's sleep, not just tonight, but every night. Well, the truth is this: many youth in foster care often struggle with a good night's sleep. They struggle and have difficulty not only getting to sleep, but sleeping through the night in a restful fashion. But why might that be? Well, as we know, being placed into a foster care environment, into a residential home, into the home that you work at, for many youth, it is a time of anxiety. Now, you can put aside all of the abuse, the trauma, the neglect, perhaps abandonment, whatever the reason the youth was placed into foster care, put that aside. When they arrive at the home, that is a time of anxiety as well. Many times the youth are filled with so many questions. Why am I here? Did I do something wrong? Is it my fault? How long will I be here for? Do these adults even care about me? Is there somebody here that might be my friend? Will I be hurt at this home? Will I ever see my family again? Questions that keep these youth awake at night. Questions that fill them with anxiety. For some youth, it might be a time of excitement. They're excited about being placed in a home where there are others their age there. That excitement might keep them up at night. Those questions might keep them up at night. Sometimes youth are filled with fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of what might happen next, fear of what has happened in their life, and fear of the future. That fear may keep them up at night. Those concerns that they have overwhelming them, not only throughout the day, but when they put their head down on the pillow at night, their mind is filled with those questions. Their mind is filled with those concerns. And their body is filled with fear and anxiety. To be sure, sleeping at night can be very difficult. Each time youth is moved from one home to the next, from one environment to the next, from one setting to the next, it's known as multiple displacement. And each time they do move from one place to the next, issues of attachment and trust only increase. For those youth who have been moved from home to home to home, from residency to residency to residency, from environment to environment to environment, they grow further with issues of attachment and trust. They're filled with issues of trust. How long will I be here before I go to the next place? How long will it be before these adults kick me out? Again, questions that weigh them down. Now, can you imagine at that age group, as a teenager, being placed into a home filled with strangers, people their age they don't know, adults they don't know? It is scary. It's a scary time. Now, these teenagers might not admit that they're afraid. They might seem too tough instead. They might put on that armor of toughness. They might try to tell you that they don't care. But the truth is, they are afraid. Being placed into a foster care environment, those first few nights can be very, very scary. Yes, being placed into a foster care environment is a time of mixed emotions. It is a time of fear. It is a time of anxiety and confusion. They might be angry. They might be filled with anger at the situation. They might feel anger towards their birth parents. They might be angry towards their relatives, for in their mind they might feel that they have been deserted or abandoned. They might feel angry towards the caseworkers, maybe angry towards the court system. Perhaps they're angry at former foster parents or former caretakers or former caseworkers. They may be angry at the staff and the home that you work at. They may be angry towards the youth they're now living with. They might be angry with themselves. For other youth, they might be filled with guilt. They might feel it is their fault that they're placed in the home. They might feel it is their fault that they're no longer living with their mothers, their fathers, their family. They might feel it's their fault that they're in the foster care system to begin with. And for some youth, it's a time of self-doubt. They're filled with doubt about themselves, about their future, about their family, about their lives. With all of this on their minds and in their hearts, it's no wonder that going to sleep at night can be very challenging, can be very difficult, can be almost impossible. When a child moves from home to home and residence to residence, it is a time of traumatic experience. It is a time of trauma being placed into a home. It's a time of emotional upheaval. When they arrive at the home that you work at, all of a sudden, there are new rules to learn. It's a new house, a new home, a new environment. There are new parental figures and staff members like you and the others. It's a time of separation anxiety. And if they're going to a new school at the new home, it may be a reminder that they are labeled a foster kid, a label that no child or youth in foster care ever wants attached to them. Now, perhaps the teen that you're working with has been removed suddenly from their home without any type of notification. Perhaps late at night, A social worker, perhaps even the police, arrived at their house and they were removed from their family. They were completely unprepared. The goodbyes to their mothers and their fathers and their family members were very, very quick. All the possessions that they own and have were thrust into a black plastic garbage bag, reminding them that they are that. They are garbage in their mind. And in no short time, they are placed into a home with strangers, people their age, people who look similar to them, people who look different than them, adults that they do not know, adults like yourself and the other staff members. It is a time of no control. There is no control of being placed into foster care, no control of being removed from their family and friends, no control of being removed from the school system that they were in, no control of being placed into the home that they're now at, no control being surrounded by other teens their age, no control of having to follow the rules in the house, rules that are enforced by you and other staff members. It is a time of no control. When this happens, when a child and youth are placed into a foster care environment quickly, suddenly, without any explanation, or perhaps going from home to home to home and residency to residency to residency, well, there are sure to be placement disruptions. There are sure to be emotional effects, social effects, psychological effects. Indeed, each time a youth is moved from one home to the next, multiple displacement, their mental health is threatened. And study after study will show and indicate that youth in foster care often suffer from issues of mental health disorders. Indeed, we cover that here at the Foster Care Institute in several of our books and several of our articles, and I would encourage you to do a little bit of research on the mental health disorders that youth in foster care often face. And finally, when a youth is moved from one place to the next, and they're going from one school to the next, well, their school performance often drops. Struggling with reading and math skills, 18 months behind, at least on average academically, placed often in classes that they are not getting the services that they need. Is it any wonder that the academic performances are lower than the traditional students? And this might keep the teenager awake at night. Failure in school, mental health struggles, emotional, social, psychological effects. And at nighttime, when the lights are off and they're lying down and the room is quiet and they are alone with their thoughts, with their emotions, with nobody who they feel understands what they're going through, issues of guilt, issues of anger, of fear, of confusion, of anxiety, of self-doubt. Again, is it any wonder that youth in foster care struggle trying to sleep at night? Nighttime can be the worst time for a teenager in foster care. For some teenagers, their brains are always on alert, if you will. They're never truly able to escape those worries, those doubts, those feelings, those emotions, the concerns they have, not only due to the trauma and abuse and neglect and abandonment they've experienced before being placed in a home, they're never able to truly escape the worries or concerns they have about being placed in the home right now. Indeed, there are some youth who have experienced so much harm, so much trauma, so much abuse, suffer from so much anxiety. They feel that they must be on alert. They feel they have to be watchful and always looking out for themselves while in the home filled with strangers like yourself and the teens they're living with. They're on the lookout to protect themselves from additional harm, from additional abuse. So their brains never really tune out, if you will. They never really turn off because they're always on alert. Some teens in the home that you're working at might be afraid of the dark, or they might be afraid of being alone. Indeed, this might be the first time that they've ever been truly alone at night in the home. Perhaps in the past they have been living in a house filled with people and their bedrooms were filled with others. If they were in other foster care homes or environments, perhaps they had roommates. But now they might be, for the first time, alone at night. Sudden noises, unfamiliar sounds might trigger them. They might be afraid of those sudden, unfamiliar, and scary noises. There are some teens that you might be working with, that you might be caring for, who also might feel that they have been abandoned. They've been abandoned at night. When they're left alone in their bedroom, when it's curfew time and it's lights out, they might feel that they have been abandoned. There are other teens who might have recurring dreams or maybe even recurring nightmares, night terrors, if you will, where they have these dreams which they relive the traumatic event, they relive the abuse over and over and over every time they go to sleep. Sleep to them is not an escape. Sleep to them is a traumatic experience. Now, when you are trying to care for youth who experience these challenges at nighttime, when you go to bed at night, when your shift is over, when it's time to go home and it's time for you to go to sleep, well, bedtime can be an exhausting time for you as well because you might be reliving the experiences that you went through in the daytime or on the shift. You might be reliving what the teenagers were going through. You might be thinking about it and dwelling upon it. It might not be able to leave your mind. Indeed, when teenagers struggle or resist going to sleep each night, it can affect your mood. And it can affect not only the sleeping habits of other teenagers in the house, it also might affect your sleeping habits at home as well. So it's a difficult time for all. Now we know from study after study after study that sleep is so essential, so vital, so necessary to the well-being, to the health, and the development, not only of you and the staff and the caretakers, but for everybody in the house. When the teenagers will not fall asleep, it is likely that they might cause others not to sleep in the house as well. In fact, as I said earlier, when you go home, you go to bed, it might cause you to stay awake because you're rethinking the experiences that you went through earlier over and over. So, how do we help? For that teenager that is reliving those nightmares at night, for that teenager who's struggling to get to sleep, for that teenager who is struggling with feelings of fear at nighttime, how can we help them get a good night's sleep? To begin with, routine. Routine is so important in so many ways for youth, both during the daytime as life and at nighttime. Bedtime, sleep time, if you will. So, one way that you can help a teenager find a good night's sleep is by having a consistent bedtime routine each night. Now, what does that look like? Well, nightly routine can include shower time, brushing teeth and hair, getting the clothes ready for the next day, maybe even reading. Indeed, reading each evening before bedtime helps to establish some quiet time. It helps to set the mood, if you will, before the teenager heads off to sleep. Reading can help him refocus on positive stories and images. It allows him to leave behind some of those tragic memories that he might be struggling with. Maybe routine looks like something like this: shower time and putting on the pajamas, picking up the room beforehand, brushing the teeth, having a little bit of a read, having a drink of water, and lights out. Perhaps it's something similar to that in the home that you work at. And helping to establish routines in the home and establish some nighttime routines for the youth that you work with. Find some activities. Find some activities that are both calming and soothing before the youth goes to bed each night. Some activities that allows him to engage in on a regular basis, on a consistent basis. Something, a routine that he can do night after night after night, again before bedtime. Now, it is so important that you skip the TV, that you skip the video games, you skip phone time and online technology before bedtime. Because these video games, these TV, phone time, online technology, laptops, whatever it might be, they often include bright lights, flashing images, and loud noises that can stimulate the brain. Indeed, there should be no stimulants whatsoever. Not only should he avoid the phone and the TV and online technology before bedtime, and that could be difficult because he's probably going to want to look at that phone, but he should be avoiding it. He should also avoid other stimulants. Stimulants such as coffee or caffeine, soft drinks, energy drinks are an absolute no before bedtime. Candies before going to bedtime should be avoided as well. Along with this, there are other stimulants he should avoid, such as over-the-counter cold and cough medicines, as well as some prescribed medications, because some of these medications might also contain some side effects that pertain to a good night's sleep. In fact, some of these over-the-counter and prescribed medications and medicines might stop him from having a good night's sleep. When it comes to medication, if you believe that some of the prescribed medications the teen is taking, if you believe they might cause him to not go to sleep, to have that sleepless night, if you will, well, then ask your doctor or physician, as well as your supervisor, about these medications and see if there are any type of other suggestions. Let your caseworker know, let your supervisor know, let the doctor or physician know that you feel that perhaps some of the medications are preventing him from going to sleep, and see if there are any other type of alternatives to these medications. We mentioned earlier that nighttime can be a scary time for some teens in the home. Consider a nightlight. Not only should you have a nightlight in the bathroom, if the bathroom is located outside of the bedroom, not only should you have a nightlight in the bathroom so he can locate that bathroom at nighttime, but he might also want a nightlight in his bedroom. And that's okay. This nightlight might give him or grant him a sense of security, a sense of safety. Now, I want you to imagine you being removed from your home during your teenage years and thrust into a strange home late at night without any explanation, and in the middle of the night, you have to use the bathroom, but you don't know where it is, and it's dark. Thus, you can see the importance of having a nightlight in the bathroom so the teenager can locate it at night. And as a reminder, again, consider allowing him to have a nightlight in his bedroom because this nightlight could give him a sense of safety. Now, when it comes to nightlights, whether it's in the bathroom or whether it is in his bedroom, make sure that the nightlights are not too bright so that it keeps him awake at night. Perhaps you've heard the phrase that music can soothe the soul of the savage beast. Well, I'm not here to suggest that teenagers can be savage, but I am here to tell you that calming music before bedtime can soothe a teen into sleep, into slumber, if you will. When the teenager is filled with that anxiety, filled with all those emotions of guilt, grief, anger, denial, self doubt, whatever it might be, when he's filled with this, and when he's anxious, when he's troubled, when he's worried, upset, and filled with concern, soothing soft music can be a great influence in bringing some peace to him, in restoring some peace to that troubled teen. When it comes to music at night, consider having some soothing music playing quietly in the background of the home and the residence before bedtime. If the bedtime is at 10 o'clock at night, perhaps starting about 9:30, some soothing, soft music can be played in the home, in the hallway, in the recreation room, in the lounge room, wherever he might be. Soft music in the background can go a long ways in establishing peace before bedtime. Another way to help him find a good night's sleep is to set some limits. Now, bedtime does not necessarily mean question and answer time. And I say that because perhaps you have been working with teens and 5 minutes before curfew, 5 minutes before bedtime, the teen has all of these questions. Well, that's not question and answer time. Now, she might have some questions for you when she goes to bed, or she might want to talk to you about what's on her mind. Try to limit this conversation time. Try not to engage in too much conversation, in too much talk, if you will, before bedtime. Instead, tell her that you would love to spend some one-on-one time with her tomorrow or another time, but now it's time to go to bed. The importance of a good night's sleep. Now, make no mistake, you need to be flexible with this rule, if you will, because there might be times that she finally opens up to you, or she might have some legitimate concerns and legitimate fears, and she needs to be comforted by you. So be flexible when it comes to setting limits. A gentle reminder can go a long way towards a teenager having a good night's sleep. Now, he might feel that he's alone. He might feel he's been abandoned, he's been deserted time and time again. And he's living in this home, being placed in this home without his choice, without his choosing, surrounded by people he does not know. You might want to remind him before you give him that final good night that you're still around, you're still there, nothing's going to hurt him. He is safe, he's looked after, and he's cared for. Perhaps you might want to consider keeping the door open if he wants it, and look in on him from time to time, reassure him with your presence that he's not alone, that there's somebody else there looking for him. He's not been abandoned, he's not been left alone, that he is safe. Another way to help youth who struggle with sleep is through melatonin. Melatonin is a natural hormone made by our body's pineal gland. This natural hormone, melatonin, helps the body know when it's time to go to sleep and when it's time to wake up. Now, when it comes to melatonin, make sure you ask your doctor and your supervisor before using melatonin as a sleep aid for the teenager or for yourself. You might have had a real tough day at work. And when you finally get home and you finally put your head down the pillow and you are thinking about all that transpired in the house and at work, maybe you need some melatonin. If you do, make sure you check with your doctor first. There's been much research lately on weighted blankets. Now, weighted blankets are another great tool to use, if you will, when it comes to those who struggle sleeping. A weighted blanket can contain in some type of weighted material, such as plastic beads of some kind, which are sewn into the blanket between layers of blanket. These weighted blankets are non-invasive to youth when they try to sleep at night. In fact, these weighted blankets are designed to help anyone, children, youth, adults, designed to help anyone who suffers from anxiety or suffers from insomnia. Now, what does a weighted blanket do? Weighted blankets provide some type of pressure, and this pressure affects the brain as it helps the brain to release neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Serotonin and dopamine help to improve teenagers' mood and help to bring a calming or soothing effect, if you will. Indeed, weighted blankets help to calm the nervous system through the blanket's deep pressure. You can find weighted blankets and order them from stores online, and you can even make weighted blankets as well. Perhaps you've heard about the power of lavender when it comes to a good night's sleep. Lavender is effectively a natural relaxant, and lavender helps the body to relax. Lavender is often found in a mist or a spray. Perhaps you have a misting device that you can put in the child's room or the teen's room, filling it up with water and pouring a few drops of lavender into the water and into the misting machine. Studies show that the scent of lavender, just the scent of lavender, can help the sleeping process. Again, it's important that you check with your supervisor before you use any of these techniques. Teenagers need a good night's sleep each evening. In fact, many studies will show you that it is during these teenage years where the body needs the most sleep, sometimes between 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Perhaps you recall being a teenager yourself, and on the weekends, during a school week, and the weekends, Saturday, Sunday morning, you would sleep until noon. That's because your body needed the sleep. Your body needed sleep to develop in a healthy fashion, to help the body and the brain develop. Yet we've seen that many youth in foster care struggle with a good night's sleep. The youth that you work with, the youth that you care for, the youth in the home, it's critical that they get a good night's sleep for a variety of reasons. With these techniques here, you can help them find a good night's sleep. For much more, we have many webinars here at the Foster Care Institute designed specifically for you. Looking to understand youth and foster care a little bit better? Check out the book, The Foster Care Survival Guide, the essential guide for today's foster parents, as well as for caretakers such as yourself. We have many books available here at the Foster Care Institute. I suspect there's a book right there that'd be a great fit for you right now. For much more, visit us at drjohndegarmofostercare.com. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to follow me on Facebook at Dr. John DeGarmo, the Foster Care Institute. Follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube. And if you have any questions about this webinar or anything else that I can help you with, please contact me at drjohndegarmo@gmail.com. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your very, very busy schedule to watch this webinar and to learn how to help the youth that you work with find a good night's sleep. More importantly, I personally want to thank you. I want to thank you for doing a job that so few will do. I want to thank you for doing a job that so few understand. I know how hard and difficult your job can be at times. I also recognize how rewarding it can be. Make no mistake, what you are doing each day at your job is making a difference. You are changing the life and the world of a teenager in crisis by all that you do. Please do not forget that. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo.